Hello everyone, my name is Alex and I am an artist based in Montreal. I'm originally from Venezuela and this is my first YouTube video. I have to say I am a little bit nervous, but more excited than nervous. So I'm just, looking for new ways to explore my creativity and ways that I can maybe put together all the different disciplines and the different things that I do and mixed with just experiences and stories that I would like to share with you and hear from you as well. And I thought that to start this channel, it would be really great to share with you the journey of reading through and working through the artist's way. I am a multidisciplinary artist. Originally from Venezuela, I am based in Montreal, Canada, and I've also lived in other countries, Brazil, Mexico, and Switzerland. I love traveling and I speak different languages. I speak English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and a little Wolof. And I practice lots of different things. I would say the only variable is that I want to and I like to express myself creatively and artistically. And that thirst of expressing myself in different ways or thinking of a specific idea that I want to express through things has been the only constant, and it's always evolving. But I would say one of the important lines or connecting lines of what I do is music. So in the music realm, I am a DJ, I am a musician, I have also produced music electronically, and what else? I've also taught arts, music, but creative arts in general. I also do interactive installations, electronic installations, visual art, performance, dance, you name it. I love exploring myself creatively, and so that's a little introduction of who I am. So let's talk about The Artist's Way. This is a really interesting book because now that I am a little bit more acquainted with it, I am actually surprised that with just being in the artistic realm and having a lot of artistic and creative friends, I had never heard about this book until my sister gifted it to me for my birthday last month. I have to say that books have sometimes found a really magical way of finding themselves in my life. The first time that this ever happened was last year when I got, again, as a gift, this book, Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, an incredible book, by the way, that someone gifted to me in 2022. And then I was like, oh, well, great, but I do have like a list of books that I want to read, and I kind of left it in the back burner. And then 1 year later, someone gave me the same book, completely different person. And they're like, I think you're going to like this book. And I was like, you know what? The same book is coming up in my life twice by two different people within the space of a year. I'm going to put this book like top of my list. And that's what I did with Americana. And honestly, it's a book that really has changed my life. First of all, it's just a book that I absolutely loved. I can maybe, do another video at another point about that book. But I have to say that it really changed the course of my life because that's the book that really got me back into reading. For a long time, I was reading books that were a lot about self-help and very practical books, and it kind of made me lose a little bit of the magic and the joy of reading just for the pleasure of reading or for the pleasure of entertainment and just having fun. And Americana was like, boop, opened my universe again. And got me into a good, Goodreads account and sharing books with my sisters as well, because they also love to read. So all this to say that books have magically sometimes appeared in my life in a very insisting way. So the same thing happened with The Artist's Way. Never heard of this book, get it as a gift a month ago. And then within the space of a week, 2 weeks later, in a very disconnected, in a completely disconnected way, I started looking more into, or just digging a little bit deeper into the universe of doechii, an artist that I absolutely love. Love her music, love her vibes, love like just the process of her, you know, just looking at the process of how she's grown as a person, as an artist. It's been really incredible. And, you know, on your YouTube like homepage, this random like video popped up talking about how, or just mentioning like the book that changed doechii's life. And I was like, ooh, very interesting. Let me click. And then when I see it's The Artist's Way, and she has this whole journal about like just all these videos about her process. And I was like, ooh, okay, never heard of this book. Then it's appearing just randomly like that. Again, unrelated, started like looking into Uncomfy. Love her videos, very inspiring, like the way how she's become, you know, how she has made her art, how she has grown as a business artist. And the first video that I watched, at one point she also says that a book that has really helped her, or that has been really useful for her, has been The Artist's Way. Another friend talked to me about this book, and again, this in the space of like a week or two, and I was like, okay, it's time to read it. All right, the first experience that I want to share with you, having read this first part of the book, is a synchronicity that happened in my life. And I have to say that, again, I just feel that there's this electricity of magic happening in my life right now that I have never really felt in the past. And so many synchronicities and connections have been happening in such a small amount of time, and even sometimes within the space of a day, that I have to document this. It got to the point where I started writing like little notes. I have a notepad on my phone that is called Synchro, and it's just like a documentation of everything that has, you know, been kind of crazy coincidences, or just like confirmations of ideas that I get, and then I see it externally, or just like things that really feel magical. One of them is that I don't know why, like I just randomly in these past 3 weeks I remembered a specific segment of one of the Chef's Tables episodes. It is with an Argentinian chef. I cannot remember the name right now. And towards the end, there's a segment where he's talking about how he feels his whole life he's been walking on the edge of uncertainty. And it's just this whole passage that every time I watch it, it really makes me feel like motivated and excited about life, and just like, ooh, living your truth and not being afraid of uncertainty, and really taking the leap in life. And the music in that part, and I still haven't found like the soundtrack alone, but the music in that part is so, just talking about it, like I get goosebumps, is so motivating and magical for me. And I watched it, let's say 3 weeks ago. And after I watched that, I started like, I literally just went to do my grocery shopping, and I was walking towards the supermarket, and then I just felt like, oh my God, it's happening, you know, it's happening, don't panic. And it just really felt like whatever it is, it's happening right now. And just this magical, really magical, potent feeling. And it like just clicked in my mind. That at that point, like I was so excited, I just stopped to write what I was feeling on my phone in the Synchronicities notes. And what I wrote was, suddenly from trying to transform my life into what I wanted to believe was true, I jumped from believing that something was true, or like maybe having oh, this could be something that happens, to knowing. Like I was like, it's not, I don't believe anymore. I know, I don't believe, I know. So when, all this to say that when I read on, I think it was on page 2, yes, on page 2, she quotes Carl Jung, and he says, I don't believe, I know. I had never heard that quote before. And when I read that, having written it myself, it's like, what is happening? I'm glad I started reading this book. So that's the first passage that I wanted to share with you. When it comes to the blockages that I'm experiencing mostly as an artist right now, and at one point she mentions like examples of things that you might be telling yourself, you know, that are blocking yourself from your fullest potential and creativity. And the biggest one for me is waiting to have financial stability or enough money to be able to like fully commit to your art or to create as much as you like to. And just to share with you my experience, in parentheses, if it can, you know, inspire or motivate anyone, is that for the past year and a half, I realized that I wanted to eventually, like, my dream is to have my own company or continue working as an artist, which is, in other words, also having your own company and working as a freelancer. Like, that's my dream. And in having this dream, I created a little bit of a strategy, but the strategy was to like find a 9-to-5 job, which, by the way, I have never really done in my 10 years. Like I've worked as a freelancer for 10 years, but it's always been unstable financially for me. And so after 10 years of financial instability, but being able to, you know, to provide for myself, but not like just enough, I was a little bit tired of that. And so I took a moment to stop and pause and realize that I still want to have my own thing, but I needed a financial pause. And so for the past year and a half, I was looking for a 9-to-5 job to be able to give me that security or financial security so that I could, you know, continue building my company or like what I wanted to do as an artist. And the reality is that for a year and a half, I applied to many different opportunities and jobs and got a few interviews, but I did not get that job. And so in a way, I knew that I wanted to move from where I was, to B, to whatever that idea was for me. And that B is really like, I just want to create. And I created these whole steps. Not that I invented them. Obviously, we need money. But I created all these steps that were blocking me from like getting to B directly when I actually have access to B anytime. I don't need, you know, like a huge amount of money or like a crazy equipment or whatever. Like there's ways that I can directly connect to the source of what I want. And so I know I'm still struggling with this, but I know that one of the blockages for me is feeling that, you know, I have to hold this like river of creativity and things that I want to do because I'm not there yet, whatever there might mean for you. So that's something that I'm really working on now and really resonated as a blockage that she mentioned. And another one is obviously just like fear of doing something big and fear of just a few different fears, like fear of reaction. And I never really noticed, but sometimes it's comfortable. Like I've been, again, working as an artist and doing a lot of different things for 10 years. But I sometimes feel resistance to really big opportunities, or even to allow myself to dream of big opportunities, because I feel like the stakes of anything going wrong and what those reactions could be scare me. And I know that is another blockage, you know, that I'm like working through. So yeah, those are the things that I wanted to mention in terms of, you know, what perspective I'm diving into this. Also really open to maybe exploring even other things that are blocking me and I didn't even realize. So, but I know and I'm aware of those two for the moment. In the basic tools section, She begins by speaking about the censor. And I found that this was an interesting part that I would love to hear, what your censor looks like and what that character or that person or that thing or that entity or whatever might look like or feel like. And I was trying to, create my own and have like a visual idea and energy of what that censor would be like for me. And by the way, like the censor is kind of like that voice that is, stopping because she talks about the logic brain and the artist brain. And the censor is kind of like the logic brain always censoring like the crazy ideas or the imagination. And in other words, censoring anything that is unrecognizable or new is scary or potentially dangerous to the logic brain. So the censor is that censoring voice or that very skeptical voice. And so for me, well, when I was thinking about what the censor is, really, I think the big censor for me is fear. And there are, like very real reasons for the censor to exist. Ego, there are things that we, have to think about or protect ourselves from, like at a very basic level and survival level. So it exists for a reason. So I see the censor with compassion, but I know that, that censor also blocks a lot of things or a lot of levels and layers that I could, slowly be unpacking and slowly revealing to the world. And to me, the censor, I think the closest character or characters that resonate with the censor for me are the two, I don't even know what they are. I think they're like two little demons from the Hercules movie. They're just like, because I wanted to see the censor as like a funny, like approachable, like conversational character that I could soothe, and that could, make it humorous and less serious. And also I was thinking of two characters because I feel that for me, the censors my own fears that are coming from my own experiences, but also fears that were just integrated or like passed down to me that are not mine, that do not come from my own experiences, that I have internalized and maybe in childhood or in life that I don't want to claim, or that I just like, they don't have a reason for existing for me. So I wanted to differentiate as like between like my own fears from my own experience, and then the other little demon is like fears that are not mine, and in any case, like they're just like funny, fearful, like little demons that I just like, to think about when I'm thinking about this character, the censor. A little side note, I just have to say that I loved the example that she was giving when she was explaining the logic and artist brain, that she was, when she mentioned that in Norse myths, the boat is referred to as the Wavehorse. What an amazing image. I love that. That is so much fun. By the way, I don't like boats. I love the sea. I just don't like boats and feeling like, dizzy and stuff. But if ever, like someone were to try to entice me to go on a boat, I would already be so much more like lenient on going on a wave horse than on a boat. So love that. Another important thought that I'm sure it's going to come out in other creations that I make, but this is something I've been thinking about for the past year, and it's to be very aware of our own limitations. And by this, I mean our own mental limitations. And it really made me think of when, again, she was speaking about the logic brain versus the artist brain. Our brains and our imagination is limited to what we know. In other words, imagination, like the results that can come out of our own imaginations and each individual's imagination is infinite. But the input is limited, is very limited. Think about it as just an AI database. The outputs can be, again, infinite, but the place where it gets its information from is very limited. And in that same way, we can only imagine something based on what we know and what we have experienced, so our past. And if we truly want to experience something new, we have to be able to at least open our minds that maybe what's coming towards us, or an opportunity, is something that we could never have even imagined because we have never lived it. It's like asking someone to imagine a color that no humans can see, or a sound that our ears are not able to, hear. So it's just to keep the mind open and to look and approach things as well with that curiosity. Morning pages. I'm not a fan of journaling. I'm not a fan of writing for writing, I write poetry every once in a while, or I write sometimes when I really need to get an emotion out, but I'm just not a fan of writing. And also I've been really bad at keeping a journal and writing every day. So we're going to see how that goes. But part of me doing these videos is also to, keep myself in check and try to really go about doing this. My suspicion, though, about these pages, and I'm just really intrigued because in the past, again, month and so weeks, I've really been waking up with clear ideas, sometimes creative ideas, sometimes with a word, many times with specific songs in my head that actually help me through the day. Sometimes it's the actual lyrics of the song that help me throughout the day. Sometimes it's the energy of the song that, just gives me energy for that specific day. Maybe it's a day that I need a bit more uplifting. And so I wake up with a song that's very happy and positive and optimistic. And I listen to music throughout the day in this vibe and it helps me. So I'm actually really interested in giving a little bit more attention to those initial thoughts that I have as soon as I wake up and see what comes out of it. So, and doing it in a routinely way. So I'm really curious about what the morning pages may bring to me in that sense. The artist dates, the other important component, is to take the time to spend and really block a time where you're just feeding, nourishing your artistic and creative ideas and your artistic and creative self. And this is, to me, one of the most important things that I'm really going to try to keep, and that I've been trying to implement in my everyday, because this is where, again, in this past year that I've been looking for jobs, I repressed myself from these moments. And again, because I was okay, well, I haven't gotten this yet, so I can't do this yet. But I realized that this was actually talking with my friend, and I was saying this whole year that passed by, was full of so many bad experiences and also just feeling not nourished. This is what I told her. I didn't feel nourished. I feel that I was holding back all of these creative ideas and creative river that I wasn't letting out. And she said, Alex, maybe being creative and creating is one of your primal needs. And I would say that it's probably every human has this need of creating and of expressing oneself creatively. And that can take literally any form. But I was holding back on that. And every time, or almost every time that I would, block out a moment for that, I would easily leave it on the back burner, and I would always compromise that and not show up for my creative self. And now knowing and seeing it as a need that I have as much as I need breathing, sleeping, eating, exercising, I also need creating. And I think having the concept of artist dates is really going to help me really implement it and integrate it into my everyday life, and really be strong and assertive about, this is the moment for myself and for my, for filling up my bucket as a human being, as a person, as a creator, and as an artist. So that's the last thought that I want to leave you with for this, first video that I have no idea how long it's going to be. I hope that something here resonated with you, that you connected with. I'm really open and curious to see how your process is reading this book, if you are, or if just any of the things and thoughts that I shared with you are interesting. Take care and have a great week.